This is urgent, not just for our country, but for all countries, for humanity. So what do we need? We need to understand what it is that we have to do. So as you can see, we've got a lot to do. But the first thing we need to do is understand the tools and the platforms for sharing this science so that we can get everybody to stop duplicating effort. We don't have enough time or money to allow everybody to build their own superhighway. We need to share our highway. And frankly, if we map out, a lot of areas that are quote-unquote pre-competitive, it's basic science, it's what the NIH does, then everybody wins. So these are just a number of the scientific tasks that we need to put together. Soldiers are the Sputnik for our moonshot. So back 50 years ago, it was the Russians. We couldn't stand it if the Russians beat us in the Cold War. We had to be number one. As you know, we built our highway system. Ike did that. Eisenhower did that because of national security. We won World War II fighting on both sides of the world because of national security. We came up with the nuclear bomb. The Manhattan Project because of national security. We had the GI Bill because of national security. You want to get something done, frankly, you got to put it under the guise of national security. You want to develop a strategy. But of course, to many places in the world, the big national security is the fact that with the growing baby boom generation retiring and getting an early onset of dementia at higher and higher rates with everybody living longer, that is a ticking time bomb that's going to affect every country in the world, and we have a huge problem because, just as the old terminology, Houston, we have a problem in the space race because something's not going right. We need to fix it, and we need to get to the challenge. So the way often science is done now is everybody's doing their individual little piece, and that we're not looking at things as a whole, and how all that we know integrates into what everyone else knows and how we share to learn. So in order to understand how it is that we have these symptoms, you need to know the genome and then all of the biology of the person, starting from the genome to the metabolome, proteome, all the cellular systems, the syndrome, the traits, how does everything match up? And then you need to compare that with what's their environment and why it is that they have what they have based upon their set of experiences. So you're talking about a very complex challenge. But they said that about the moonshot. And my uncle said, we don't do these things because they're easy, we do them, and then he had in that Massachusetts accent, we do them because they're hard. Hard, that's what he said. So, the bottom line is we have all the tools to set this rocket off. But what are we missing? We're missing the political will. We're missing the fuel to fire up that rocket. We need to bring everybody together. We need to break down artificial barriers. We can't allow academics to hold on to their science till they go to the grave. We got to tell them, if you're funded by the federal government, share what you know because taxpayers paid for it, and we're not waiting for you to get your little prize and paper published in Nature magazine. We want cures for our loved ones, and we're not going to wait around while you sit on all that data. So we're starting with trying to get everyone to participate, and I can go to any corporate leader or academic in the country and say, it's for our soldiers. And frankly, they can't say, oh, well, you got to pay me for that, or you got to do this. Everybody owes it to our soldiers. So, as I said, we got to bring the private sector, we got to bring all of the federal agencies, and we've got so many federal agencies. We've got to bring academia, we've got to bring everyone together. And when we do it, we got to plug everybody into where their strengths are, and we got to get people to talk to one another. But we'll never lose sight of the fact that it's the person that is the reason we're doing this. That we need to connect the medical records with the science. We've got to get the pharmaceutical sector to do their part. They can take the drugs to market, but we need to make sure that we're not wasting any time on our side, and we got to make sure they're not wasting any of their resources, because all of them are doing Me Too drugs. And all of them are duplicating each other's effort, because they all have to own their own patent for their own cure. Well, wait a second here. Let's make the starting line, the last 30 yards of the field for the touchdown. Let's all of us work together to get the more plays that can score more touchdowns, because we all brought the ball down to the 30-yard line, and then let's score. Let's not have everybody think they got to do it alone. And that's better together. Now I'm on message. So I love this neuroscience stuff. And another advantage of this is clearly, these issues are treated as moral failings of the individual, right? That's why people get marginalized. The benefit of scientific discovery is not only will it come up with cures and discoveries, it's also going to help bring the realization to all Americans that these are physical. You can map this. You can test it just like I take your blood test for diabetes. I can now start taking blood tests to find out whether you're high risk for X, Y, or Z. That it isn't behavior in a vacuum that's all you. These are things that we can begin to understand. And when we do, people will take them and respect them as the serious health issues that they are, and treat them accordingly. So I think there's a double track here. It's the discovery and science, but it's also the enlightenment and the disabusing of these myths and stereotypes that keep people marginalized when they suffer from these disorders. So we're putting people together to try to put through this giant, basically, connectome. So ironically, we need a connectome in the science to understand the connectome in our brain. So we're back on the highway together. And at this event with the Society for Neuroscience, and I said everybody was an astronaut, Tom Insel came up to me afterwards. He said, when I was a kid, they used to bring us all into the gymnasium every time one of those Apollo rockets took off. He said, we felt like we were on a mission. And I said, you know what, we need to make America feel that way again. We're still the world's leader in medical research, technology, and know-how. If the president, if the Republicans are looking for an answer to put America back on top, let America lead the charge in the new frontier of today, understand the brain, solve the symptoms that come from brain disorders, and we will once again put ourselves in every country of this world as the freedom fighters that we always want our country to be. Thank you very much.
Safety to the earth.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.